Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for January 13th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Aaron McHale sharing the screen, and Ralph Kohler and Simo Hilston. So go ahead, Aaron.
Thanks. So the issue I'm looking at is one that's been on has popped onto our little backlog of issues here, and I'm going to mention it because it's relevant to the meta issue that we've been looking at around reorganizing the block items, the administration menu. So the issue we're looking at is number 23179881, and that is the block content add, edit, delete needs proper breadcrumbs. And the idea is, and to be fair, this is a problem that you see across like core. This isn't just block, but it's this is one of the examples. Creating, editing, deleting custom blocks, they don't have a proper breadcrumb, and you can see the screenshot there. It's literally just home is the breadcrumb. Now there is not so much a proposed resolution in the issue summary, but if we come down a bit past the discussion, there's some additional screenshots. Yeah, there's a little bit of inactivity. Yeah, so you can see, like, for instance, here with the new block content revision UI, which was very recently committed, you can see that you get a breadcrumb that goes home and then the block ID #1, and then obviously we've got the revision screen we're on in this case. So that arguably is even in some ways even less helpful that the breadcrumb just is 1. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure if that's because Laurel called the block 1, but I presume that's because that's the block ID. So I suggested an idea that for this, which, because the idea that being discussed in the issue was around, we could just introduce a breadcrumb builder and force the breadcrumb to be, home, content, block, and then I guess maybe the block ID or whatever. So you would see here, so instead of it just being home and then the block ID, it would have the admin content block pass, assuming that we eventually get the moving custom block library to content that gets committed. And so we could do that, but the URLs wouldn't change. So I suggest the idea, what if we change the URL here for blocks to be /admin/content/block, and then the block ID, and that would achieve the same result, but it would mean that the URL that you see in the address bar is then also consistent with where you navigate to access blocks. And the thing that's different here, oh, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I couldn't tell, the mic indicator stopped showing up. Just the final thing I'll say is the thing that's different about this is versus, like, because you technically get the same problem with users and with nodes to a lesser extent, because, like, if you put them in, usually you have a URL with that anyway, and other things. But the difference here is with blocks, you're always going to be within the context of the admin UI. So you're not going to navigate from the front end of the site. Like, you're not going to go from the home page to, like, the block view page, the block edit. Like, blocks are always meant to be placed within another page. So I think in this case, changing the URL to be aligned with where the block listing makes a lot of sense in this case, and also has the side effect of then fixing the breadcrumb. So that was my proposal on this issue, and obviously, since, as I noted here, we're actively working on, as a group, working on the reorganizing the block items. Anyway, I thought I wanted to bring this issue up and see if that made sense, as to do as a sort of follow-up to the meta issue around that. So I'm going to stop, and happy to go over anything of what I've just said, or if anyone has any questions, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I at least don't have any questions about the context. So let's start there. Simo, Ralph, do you have any questions about context, what the problem is? Go ahead.
No. Yeah, the problem, I think, is clear.
Okay, by the way, I'm pasting into the Zoom chat a link to today's test site, which does have the most recent 10.1
Perfect.
and the usual login admin.
That's great, because I did not have a site prepared for this. So we can demonstrate actually as well, just quickly demonstrate this. So, and this is actually the fact that block library is still under like its structure is even more helpful, because we're in the block library. Oh, and it has loads of blocks. That's really helpful because it's umami. So I don't have to create a block to show this. So yeah, if I click on a block, you can see I'm just like taken straight to the block edit form, but the breadcrumb is just home. It's not even like, and also the URL is /block/5. So you click home and you'll be taken back to home, which is not really helpful. And then we can probably, so we can see the example of the division here where the ID, I guess that for some reason the breadcrumb for block is literally just using the block ID in the breadcrumb, which again is probably like not really helpful. And that's potentially even a follow-up issue to this one, to be like, can we make this, because this is not consistent behavior. We never really, in the breadcrumb, we never show the ID of something. So we should probably also have it so that the breadcrumb shows the actual title of the block rather than the block ID, to be consistent with other places.
Yeah, so I guess as a usability question, we are not concerned with how it's implemented. There should be breadcrumbs, and maybe we should think a little bit about exactly what the breadcrumbs should be, and think about it in the context of the other ongoing issues.
Right.
As an implementation issue, I always recommend when site building that people pay attention to the URLs, and instead of doing the work of creating custom breadcrumbs, just make sure that your URLs match your structure, your site navigation, so that the breadcrumbs take care of themselves. But there's also another point. Could you go to the issue page?
Yeah, over here.
And there's already a related link to the issue for moving blocks to content.
Yeah.
So the latest development there is that we've gotten some attention from the release managers, and I guess for the sake of the recording, this will be issue 2862564, move custom block library to content.
Which is still loading.
Yeah, your site is very slow today, Aaron.
I just think it's like,
rather.
Yeah, it's such a big issue, and I don't know, my computer's doing other stuff, so I don't know.
So yeah, they did object to the disruptive nature. They point out that not only might people have links, who knows where, saved in emails, saved in their browser tabs, whatnot, but also the shortcut module does not store internal routes. It stores actual paths, which I didn't realize. So they've decided that for all of these issues, we're going to have to do something to help people use the existing routes or the existing paths. And the latest recommendation is to postpone this issue, create a separate issue to handle the one that's already been fixed, Yeah, 131 is the latest comment, one I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
But anyway, once we do that, once we have sort of a strategy for creating a redirect, then there should be less, it should be easier to make further changes in the URL structure.
Yep.
So I haven't had a chance to do it since that comment was posted yesterday, but I plan to postpone this issue, create the issue that XJM suggests here, and start working on it. And once that's done, I think it should be fairly easy to change the path for the block edit forms as well.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense, and I guess it would be this. Yeah, it would be the same thing. So I guess if we're if we think that obviously changing the path is a good approach. Lost track of where I was. Yeah, we can I can suggest that. Well, I can recommend that on here. I guess, do we want to block this issue on the one you're going to create? I can see it's already blocked on something. Oh, the custom block library. Yeah, so this will happen after the custom block library issue gets done. So I guess it's a case, I guess because that's going to be postponed on the issue you're going to create, we don't need to postpone this issue on that. Yeah, okay, it's already postponed. So I'll just recommend that on the issue that we've talked about it, and we recommend just we go ahead and update the URL as well. And obviously that certainly simplifies the issue, because I know from trying to implement breadcrumb builders myself, they're sometimes a tricky thing to get right. So yeah, the simpler we can make the implementation, the better. And I don't think there was anything. Let me just double check my comment. I don't think there was anything else.
Ralph has something he wants to say.
Go ahead, Ralph.
It's I just remembered we've talked, it's already a while ago in early 2022 about the H1 issue in a thread, Aaron and me, and there I've made a point about breadcrumbs, which applies here as well. It's out of the scope for this issue, but in general it still applies. I've linked it, the direct link to the comment. Neil's Norman Group posted 11 design guidelines for desktop and mobile, and a few of the points listed there apply also to Drupal and yeah, to that issue as well. For example, including the current page as the last item in the breadcrumb trail, it applies, for example, for the node edit page, as well as in that case for blogs. But in other contexts of the Drupal admin interface, it isn't used in the breadcrumb trail, so it's inconsistent. And in a breadcrumb trail, the breadcrumb corresponding to the current page should not be a link, which is in the Drupal case, and breadcrumb trails should start with a link to the home page. You currently have a home button in the toolbar, so you have it twice, and it should be only once. And I agree as well in that case, because you have in the breadcrumb the home button leading to the homepage of the front end instead of the home of the admin interface, and that's also suboptimal. And the last one is also, if you have a longer breadcrumb, don't use breadcrumbs that wrap to multiple lines. There's already an issue. I've listed in the Slack comment. but I thought the breadcrumb and how they are treated in Drupal might be worth an issue as well.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a useful resource, I think, and certainly that would be worth looking at as part of a follow-up issue, because there's some general, good recommendations here.
And a few
I mean,
patterns. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so like this issue is slightly easier than the other problem that's being in my mind about breadcrumbs, which is like, if you go to your user profile, right? And you go to edit it. I mean, that in itself is a bit annoying, but like, I don't even did the breadcrumb just disappear? Hold on. Why is the breadcrumb not there? That's weird.
It's sometimes hidden under the menu.
Oh, thank you. That's okay. Fun bug. But in the case of like user, like the breadcrumb kind of makes sense if you're the user logged in, but it makes a little bit less sense if you go to people and then you're administering a user and you click on it, and then the breadcrumb, or to illustrate that slightly better, like go to edit against the user, the breadcrumb doesn't reflect the trail I was on, which was, one of the recommendations of, I guess you could say, in an article. And one of the solutions to that would be like, this is a much bigger thing, but like is to potentially have like administrative paths to edit users, and then like the user's own profile, it would be a separate path. And you could argue the same thing for other entity types. But that's a wider issue.
But if you go, for example, into configuration and then into, you don't have admin toolbar there. Yeah, basic site settings, for example. Then the last item in the breadcrumb is system and not basic site settings.
Yeah.
For example, that's and if you, in contrast, go to content and on a node edit page. And scroll up.
Oh, bother.
You can just edit the address and remove the ES from the path.
Yeah, let's just okay, Ian. But how do I? Oh no.
Again, the breadcrumb looks like it's hidden under the toolbar.
Yeah, oh no, I'm trying to like get it. How do I get the toolbar to disappear?
You click on the
Oh wait, I found it, kind of. Okay, sorry, Ralph, continue.
No worries. But there you see the current page is the last item in that case, and it is a link. But the more consistent and more clear pattern would be to add the current page as the last link, but not as a link.
Yeah.
But as a last item. And
in this case,
you get back to the edit page if you click it.
Yeah, I guess in this case you got this links to the view page, so you would have like the breadcrumb then
a view page again. Okay.
Yeah. But that is an example of the thing I mentioned where like in the case of block, like we should probably be using this pattern of like we don't use the node ID in the breadcrumb, right? So we should probably be using the name of the block rather than the block ID. I would guess. Blocks are a bit different in some use cases, so.
Right, and I noticed that on the user edit page as well. It had the username rather than the numeric ID.
Right.
Simo, you had your hand up for a while. Is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I already wrote it to the chat that also when you're editing taxonomies, the breadcrumb goes to like admin structure taxonomy. But when when you start editing terms, then you go back to home and term taxonomy, home, and term name breadcrumb.
The taxonomy breadcrumb is broken in all other ways, though.
Yeah, go to list and now edit one of the actual terms.
Yeah,
I think that's what SEMO is.
Yeah.
yeah.
So now it's already also hidden there, but yeah. So that's the.
And that's an example of a case where having I guess like, what would you call that? Like an admin roots and like front facing roots might be also helpful, because that would help with like, because the URL is like taxonomy/term/29, because you might be using this on the front end, like you're viewing it, but we might also have like an admin, we could in theory have like an admin/structure/taxonomy/term, whatever path that then preserves the breadcrumb for the admin side of things.
Yep.
Well,
and we could also have.
At least this one has the ID in the URL, but uses the name in breadcrumb.
Yeah, I think this is what Ralph was talking about, how, and this is a thing down to the theme where like you saw this on the user page as well, and on the here we've got the, not as a link, we've got the name of the page in the breadcrumb, but well, in the in the admin theme, I'm getting sick of these breadcrumbs. In the admin theme, we don't do that. So like, I wonder if that's actually a theme specific implementation of something they've done in Umami to make the breadcrumb show the page title.
I don't know.
So I'm mindful we're approaching halfway through the meeting, and I also feels like we've reached a natural point in the discussion to conclude. Unless anyone has any final thoughts on this.
Well, I do have a couple of thoughts. And first of all, once we're finished with block content and we've and we sort of understand how to make the changes we're discussing, that will make it much easier to look at other portions of the site. Like, for example, taxonomy. Maybe the different vocabularies should be under the structure menu, but the terms should be under content. That
right.
More consistent. It's certainly worth the discussion. And the other thing is that maybe we should go back to the original issue and come up with sort of a specific recommendation of what the breadcrumb should be, unless that's already been discussed here.
I think that, I guess it would just be based on, let me see, I think it was, the idea was it would just be based on the path to, was there one in the issue summary? Hold up. Yeah, it was like, it's not the proposed resolution, but breadcrumb should point to custom block library, which again, obviously bearing in mind that this issue is basically postponed on the one moving it to content. So I think everybody seems to be okay with that being, you know, in that case, it would be, you know, admin content, block library, or blocks, whatever that ends up being, and then the name of the block, the ID of the block would be in the breadcrumb, because that would be what we would then, assuming we that's what we agree, then that would logically follow that we're recommending, well, the URL should then be like /admin/content/blocks and then the block ID.
Right. So if we do make the path that will affect the breadcrumbs. We'll have home, and
right.
then we'll have will we have admin naturally?
Yeah, let's go to content. I think we would. So take media, for instance. So yeah, it would go at home admin content, media, well, yeah, home admin content blocks, and then the, you know, the block ID.
Right.
But wouldn't it be more consistent to use the title of the block instead in the block?
Yes, I think we should
breadcrumb.
open a follow-up issue to deal with using the block title rather than the ID, because that is definitely something we identified as an inconsistency.
I'd be inclined to do it as part of the same issue, but whoever actually works on it can decide.
Yeah, I guess because the thing is, if we're recommending that we're actually changing the path, this issue becomes, the implementation of this issue is not about making a breadcrumb builder and changing the breadcrumb, but actually just implementing the changing of the path, which by consequence changes the breadcrumb. So to scope well, we probably would want that to be its own issue because it's dedicated to changing how the breadcrumb is displayed. Which I don't know actually if it would.
Ralph gives a thumbs up to that. I've been advocating on the other block issues that as we change paths, we also change page titles. Maybe that's not exactly the same thing. Not sure where the breadcrumb gets.
Actually, this is a funny, now that I think about it, this is a weird case because normally the breadcrumb comes from the page title. So, do you know what though? So blocks doesn't technically have a view. You know what, I'm gonna look into this more. It might end up being a follow okay, it might end up being part of this issue, depends on what's happened here, because you would then expect, I don't know how this has gotten to be one, because you would expect it would just use the title of, what it does is it uses the title of like whatever it thinks this path is, so block/5. So it could be that it wasn't able to generate a title, which is why there's the IDs here. So that maybe needs more investigation as to understand why that's happened.
Yeah. Blocks are funny that they don't have a view.
Yeah.
Page. So block/5 is the edit form. It's not block/5/edit.
Yeah, and I guess we'd probably keep that like that because, again, it's from my perspective to avoid the issues you can see with taxonomy with the breadcrumb. The fact that edit is the first tab, and is, or I guess because the canonical path here goes to edit, means edit's the first tab, and then all other tabs kind of fall off of that. So I think that makes sense to keep it that way rather than trying to introduce like a /edit and then it breaks the breadcrumb for all the other tabs, which is what you can see happening with on the taxonomy side.
Right.
Okay. I think we're at a good point. I'll update this issue just with the summary of what we've discussed, and then we can figure out from there if it needs any follow-up issues or anything like that. But it is already postponed on the moving block library to content, so we'll just work on the assumption that the path of the block library and blocks will end up being under admin content blocks.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good stopping place.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Give me a minute to find the right window. Oh, that's right, top this time. Okay, so I'm now looking at issue number 2862859. Create a top-level extendable content admin route that behaves like structure. And I guess the context is that a few people have advocated solving this issue either before or along with the rearrangement of the block admin pages that we've been working on. And well, let's read some of the issue summary. Now that we have Drupal 8 and positively encourage developers to create multiple types of content entity, we need to stop assuming that all content is made from nodes. Even in core Drupal, we have node content, comments, files, custom blocks, taxonomy terms, and more. As of 8.4, we also have media. And the proposed resolution is to change the menu admin/content to use the same page layout as admin structure, and then have the current node content view a subpage of that, comments view another subpage, etc. So let me switch over to my sample site, and we have admin content, which is currently mainly the list of nodes, and has subtabs for files and media. I guess this is the demo, the Umami demo profile, so maybe comments aren't enabled. If they were, there would be a separate tab for them here. We're already proposing making the list of custom blocks a further subtab. And for comparison, let me go to admin structure. And this is what I sometimes call a container page. It has nothing but a list of links, which also show up in the administration menu, at least most of them do. And the proposal is that the content page look a lot like this. You have the title content, and then a link for nodes, where we've tied ourselves in knots that we've decided to refer to nodes as content in the UI. Nodes, comments, files, media, blocks, whatever. So the argument in favor is consistency. Perhaps there's a feeling that we're getting too many tabs on this page. I'm not sure, maybe there's an objection to having the two levels of tabs and subtabs. And the argument against making that change is that, well, nodes are still commonly used, and we want to be able to get to this listing pretty conveniently. And I think Aaron has made that argument that getting to this page would require an extra click if we implement this proposal. And as usual, Slack is making it hard for me to see the comments, so give me a moment to open up the Slack chat. Don't see anything new there. Anything more any of you would like to bring up for this issue?
I think yeah, I mean, to build on that a little bit, like if we take the example of a publishing site, like a media publishing site or something, having the content like go to, well, admin/content be the list of content, in a way it feels right, because everything else kind of falls off from nodes in a way. Like a node would be an article, generally speaking, the publishing site, right? And so media would be attached to those articles, like files would be attached to those articles, blocks even. So in that context, that site, that kind of makes a lot of sense, right? That this is the thing you land on, and then all the other things almost feel like assets of content. But in a site that's a bit less straightforward, that might not be the case, and a situation more like a layout more like the structure page might suit another type of site quite well. So I think that's part of the problem with this issue, is like there's not really a clear it's not clear cut in all cases. And so I guess I don't have a definitive answer there, but it's just something that's, I think that I can see why this issue's gotten stuck for a long time.
I think one of the cases where one might not do, why one maybe wouldn't need the list of node content would be a site that uses commerce products as and is a headless, like backend for a headless commerce site, and but in that case all the commerce stuff would be in its own menu anyway, so the products wouldn't be under content even if they would be the main content. But like in that kind of situation, I can see that one wouldn't need the content listing, but then again it wouldn't be something, then you could just hide the content part, kind of. It wouldn't be on the way of anything, I guess.
That's right. The commerce module adds a top level entry to the administration menu for commerce. And underneath that, it has product types, product variation types, and the list of products, and maybe not the list of product variations, I forget. So a commerce-based site, this issue doesn't matter much, does it?
I guess it's funny because this whole thing really starts to fall apart if you uninstall the node module, because what you end up with is a /admin/content, which still exists with a content tab, but it's a completely empty page. And so that really illustrates the problem if you do that. And maybe that's a middle ground solution where if the node module, because what's actually happening is this root is provided by the system module, which is why it still exists if the node module is uninstalled, but node takes over this root. So maybe a part way to solving this would be actually, if the node module isn't installed, you get a structure like page. When if it's installed, you get this content view instead.
That's an interesting compromise. I think that's worth considering.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Also a +1 for Aaron's idea right now. That sounds interesting. Just wanted to point out one issue I have with the current way is if you have admin toolbar installed, I actually know how things are structured and laid out, but it always makes me think, where do I have to click if I want to go into the node list? I have to click the top level item, but in the sub-level items you have add content and comments and files, and it's such a mixture and overlap that makes it confusing a bit and always makes me think. And also from a naming perspective, to having the top level item called content and then have another sub-level item again called content is also sort of confusing, even though it's correct. And yeah, more precise would be node, but that it would be too complicated for less experienced people. But still, it's confusing.
Right, that's a consequence of the problem that I described earlier, as how we've tied ourselves up in knots, referring to nodes as content.
Another interesting thought is this issue almost like becomes a lot easier to solve if we completely redesign the toolbar. Because the problem with like the approach is, okay, we could do what structure does, but as we've said, like you click content and then you have to click content again, right? But if we had a toolbar like the gin toolbar and plus admin toolbar where you can just like hover over the content icon and you get a list of like, you get content, you get media, right? That almost makes it like by doing what the issue suggests and making content behave like structure, we don't actually degrade the experience in any way, because you would almost never get to that that listing page. You would be using the toolbar to get to that second level content item. And I know the reason I bring it up is because I know there's like efforts to potentially do something like that. Like, you know, we want to, the toolbars for a long time is needed a rethink, but that's something that could actually happen. So I wonder if it's worth even just postponing this issue and saying, let's revisit this once we've redesigned the toolbar, because the solution might be a lot clearer then.
Okay, so I did just install the admin toolbar, and you can see the drop downs on several of these. You know, I wonder why we don't have any children of content in the administration menu. And
There usually is.
So do I have to go to, well, I don't know, I just enabled it with the default configuration.
Could you go
Yeah.
to extend again and search for admin toolbar?
So I think if I just collapse this, it'll be right there.
Install the extra tools and the link, access links filter, those two.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, so this I think is a good idea and would not be hard to add to core to add these items to the administration menu. And that would mitigate the extra click problem that Aaron brought up. If content did become a container page like this, then just as we can go to structure and click on the link, we could open up content in the core admin menu and click on the link for nodes. So on the other hand, most people don't seem to use the toolbar in the vertical orientation. So for those of us who do, or for those who install the admin toolbar, I guess I have to reload this page. That would mitigate the extra click problem. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that even though Drupal 8 and beyond have all these different entity types that are in some ways on the same level as nodes, in fact, there are a lot of places where nodes have a special case in Drupal, and I keep finding new ones. So one is as the one that Aaron pointed out, that this page content is defined by the system module and then overridden by the node module. And sort of related to that is the permission. I'm going to just type into my address bar /module/node. Which permission do I want?
Is it the view content one, your view published content?
Yes,
Yeah.
view published content. That permission is actually created by the system module. So that was an attempt to remove the special place the node module has in Drupal. And yet when that permission was moved to the system module, they put in a hack to make it look like it's provided by the node module by putting it under node rather than putting it under system. There are other places, and oh yes, The other one I wanted to mention was that, and we've talked about this on views. So when you go to structure, views, and let's edit the content view. You remember we talked about this a few months ago. What was it under relationships and contextual filters? If you add a contextual filter on I don't see it. Guess is there an extra step that I'd have to do? But there's a special relationship between the node module and the taxonomy module, and you can filter on taxonomy term. So maybe, oh, maybe it wasn't there. Maybe it was under the filter. If we, well, but let me not try to remember that. Let me just say there is a dedicated database table that keeps track specifically of nodes and the taxonomy terms applied to them. And it doesn't apply if you have taxonomy terms attached to media, for example. And that affects the views filtering. So maybe I'm getting too far into the weeds here, but the point is that there are still lots of places in Drupal core where the node module has a special place. Getting back to the issue. So what do we think now are the next steps for this? I think one is to add Aaron's suggestion that when the node module is not installed, that we could do, I think, exactly what this issue recommends. Am I right?
Yeah, the only well, it sounds easy, but then you consider, okay, what do you do about the local tasks? Because if we simply go ahead and implement the issue as it's written, we convert some of the local tasks to menu links. But if we go with what I was proposing, we need both menu links and local tasks. So then you would end up with a situation where you've got a bunch of local tasks on a structure looking page and also all the links. So we would need to find a way to then also not show those local tasks, or only show those local tasks when the node module is installed.
Is that the case? So here on, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be the case. Like, imagine the structure page with all of the the media and the files local tasks, as well as the media and files links on this page. You might end up because we would have to define, because what's happening is those modules are defining local tasks, not menu links, which is why without admin toolbar, content doesn't have any menu links under it. And so we would end up in a situation where they would just all get spit out onto this page. So that might be something we would need to be reconciled. Somehow find a way to do that.
I see your point. So I guess when the node module is not enabled, we would want something like this content with, I guess by default, comments, media, blocks, if those modules are enabled. And then the node module would not only create this list of nodes on that page, but would also add these other pages as local tasks as primary tabs on the page.
Yeah, that probably makes sense to have some kind of, again, I don't want to dive into like implementation, but just so we're clear, it probably would make sense to have the node module then just look at all the menu links and generate the local tasks, that rather than the other way around, because then it means like media, all it has to do is to provide one menu link and it doesn't need to worry about the complexities around that. I also do wonder though if like we should just say, because this issue hasn't moved in years, if it's more likely that the admin toolbar is going to get redesigned before this issue is done. And maybe it makes sense just say, yeah, let's postpone this on the admin toolbar redesign until, and then revisit it after that.
Well, the admin toolbar redesign is also something that we've been talking about for a long time, but doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Although Ralph agrees with postponing it.
Yeah, I'm just mindful, like, is it like it's clearly nobody's like if this issue was really a massive problem for loads of people, it would have been, I would have hoped like it would have seen more activity, but like it seems like we'd be doing a lot of work and then like potentially not needing it, because if the admin toolbar was redesigned to look more or less behave like the gen toolbar, but being vertical, which from what I understand is the current Figma designs is what it is, then, or at least is being proposed, I don't know how concrete all this is, then we, the whole, it might be like, oh, well, we can just put a structure style page in and nobody will bother because it won't be any harder to get to the content link. So I don't want to see us doing a bunch of work and then being like, oh, actually, we don't need it,
Okay, so good point. There is work going on to redesign the toolbar in Contrib, in specifically related to the Gen module. I just uninstalled or deleted. I deleted the view that normally creates the content page. Let's reload this and see what we get. Okay, so this, I guess, is generated by the node module.
Yeah,
So
it'll be
it looks pretty much the same except without the filters. So I was just curious what would happen there. Yeah, one other question I wanted to bring up is how hard it would be to implement this change in a Contrib module. So I guess the first step is you would delete or disable that view and then have a Contrib module override this page. I wonder if that would be an option. And then if it can be done in Contrib, that decreases the argument for saying that we should do it in core.
I think you could do it in Contrib because, well, yeah, I don't see why you couldn't.
You'd be overwriting a route. I think that can be done.
Yeah, because that's what the node module is doing. Like literally the example we just saw of, or we're looking at right now, is the node module overriding a route provided by the system module.
Yeah.
So we've got an example in core as to how you would do it. If you're up for completely trashing this site, go ahead and uninstall the node module just for fun and see what this looks like.
Well, we only have 2 minutes left, and before I can uninstall the node module, I have to remove all the content. So
oh, never mind that.
It's more than a click or two.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a throwaway site. I could do that.
Yep.
Okay, so I will add a comment. I think the important things are one, we might do this when the node module is not installed. Two, if it can be done in Contrib, then there's less argument for doing it in core. And three, with ongoing work to redesign the admin toolbar, especially in Contrib, that maybe we should just postpone this issue till later. Any other closing comments?
I think that sounds good. I would only add that if it was the idea of doing it in contrib is could also be seen as a proof of concept as to how you would do it. So
Okay.
maybe phrasing it as a proof of concept way of getting it, getting it done.
Okay. Good point. Well, thank you all for coming, and it is just at the top of the hour, so have a good day, and hope to see you again next week.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Right.